There was a lot of child abuse going on in Leicester, which is the nearest city to where my area is. I was finding out a lot of, and it was linked to politicians, historic and current, and it was linked into the police as well. I mean, I gave evidence against the head of police.
But do you agree with David Icke, who produced this documentary Beneath the Surface, that there is this kind of satanic cult dealing with child abuse for
Yes.
for a long time?
Yes. Well, you look at the children that disappear and the reluctance of the state. I mean, we live in a surveillance state. We're all surveilled. But still, these children can just disappear. Well, they only can disappear because the state allows them to disappear. And that's across the whole world. And because I'd spoken out about the post office and the modern slavery in the garment industry and the vaccines, people came to me with information that no other MP would look at.
They trusted you.
They trusted me, and they were desperate. I mean, these were desperate people. They'd been to their own MP and they wouldn't touch it. They came to me and I looked and I considered it, and there was evidence there, and I was given evidence that that there was industrial child trafficking.
Industrial?
Yeah. From the Ukraine via Moldova to the UK for sexual abuse and organ harvesting. And as horrible as that is, and it's, you know, there are still people who don't want to hear about the vaccines not being safe and effective. And this is another step on from there to systemic child abuse and trafficking. But I mean, unfortunately, we have to live in the world as it is, not how we'd like it to be. And it's a fact. And I looked at the evidence. I saw what the group had done, and they tried to take it to the police in the UK. They'd taken it to Gloucestershire Police because they've got a specialist unit in child trafficking, and they wouldn't do anything. They'd taken it to MI5. They'd taken it to MI6. They'd taken it to the National Crime Agency, and they'd got recordings of all their conversations with these agencies. And nobody was. And I wrote and sent the evidence into the government. I sent it into the leader of the House, and I sent it into the Lord Chancellor, who's in charge of the judiciary. And all I got back was, if you think a crime has been committed, take it to the police. Well, I'd already pointed out that they'd already been to the police, and no one wants to deal with it. And the answer was that the information had come from 2 Ukrainian Secret Service agents who independently, so they didn't know about each other, they'd given the same information, and the information was that the Ukrainian Secret Services were collecting children during the conflict in the Donbass, and they were handing them over to UK Secret Services who were trying.
Yeah, and you worked on a documentary about this topic.
Yes.
Shall we just have a look at the trailer? The
Yes.
trailer is called From War to Exploitation, the Crisis of Child Trafficking in Ukraine.
High-ranking individuals in the Ukraine and the UK, international corporate companies' funds being directed to these individuals, child trafficking from the Ukraine to Moldova to the UK to be used in the sex trade and organ harvesting. Get ready for the expose of the century.
Yeah, very difficult to cope with this information that it really exists, and maybe that's also the reason why people look away. But if
They don't want to believe it exists.
If you have children yourself, it's something that should bother you, should interest you. But I have children myself, and I have to admit, when I dig into these subjects, it kind of makes me feel very, very, very almost sick.
Yeah.
So I intend to look away from it. What is this energy that makes you look away because you have children, but you didn't look away.
As an elected member of parliament, I always thought my job was to protect the interest of the people who voted for me. I mean, whether that's the economic interest and economic growth and well-being, or from exploitation and looking in the dark corners that no one else wants to look in. I mean, there's some pretty horrendous things in there. And I'd uncovered so much corruption through my 14 years in Parliament. I mean, everything that didn't add up or no one wanted to talk about, it was always corruption.
Yeah, but what did it expose, this documentary, and did it change anything?
Yes. When I exposed all this, what it happened was that I was actually arrested for and accused of paedophilia.
You were arrested?
Yes, 3 weeks later. And they made ludicrous accusations that I was a member of the Freemasons. And, I mean, the police could have found that out in 5 minutes, that I've never...
But you were actually arrested?
I was brought in and questioned under caution, yeah, on the old record. And I had to have a lawyer there. They offered me the government lawyer, obviously, but that wouldn't have been very good, would it? So, and, yeah, they had to drop it. They said there were evidential problems. That's because there was no evidence. And that was just a warning. I mean, that's what they do to people.
But it's almost a joke.
It wasn't. Well, it's not a joke when you're in the police station and they're asking you the questions they're asking you. Yeah. I mean, it's appalling. 8 years ago, I gave evidence that the chief constable of Leicestershire was paedophile.
Yeah.
I didn't investigate him though.
But the result,
I gave that evidence to the police.
The result is that you were investigated. But
yes,
did
but it was
anybody do anything with your information?
No. They wouldn't do anything with it, except what we do know now is that the operation, which was running out of the UK, they've moved the administration of it to Belgium since this programme came out. And there was nothing in the mainstream media about anything that's in that programme. And they didn't attack it, they just ignore it. That's what they always do. It just doesn't exist.
How big is this?
There's more money, I think we can accept, there's more money in child trafficking and sex trafficking of children than there is in drugs or weapons.
Because it's also about organs, eh?
They trade the children. They only sell the drugs once. They sell the children many, many times. And then when they're finished with them, they organ harvest them. That's why you never find the victims in the end. It's appalling. But that's how much money. There's huge amounts of money in it. And it's state-sponsored. And that's why you will not stop it at the moment, because the state will never investigate the state. But there were people very close. You watch the documentary. There are people in MI6 linked into the companies that were, I believe, laundering the money, which is Economics, and it was funded by USAID, which thankfully Donald Trump shut down some months ago. That Canonics is in 27 countries, and they were taking donations for doing work with children. Fabio, I think they were the payments for the children. Yeah. They were the payments for the children. That's what I suspect. And, yeah, nobody wanted to talk about it. No agency. Well, I'm not surprised. You can't get the state to investigate the state. And it is state-sponsored. And it's worldwide. And that's why so many millions of children go missing every year.
How do you know that it's real, what you're saying? How do we find real proof?
Because the two originators of the information, who didn't know each other, were both Ukrainian Secret Service agents who were appalled at what they were being asked to do, which was collect the children up for trafficking. One was killed in a cafe, a bomb was put under his table, and the second one had a bomb put under his car and survived. And he named the names, and it's people very close to Zelensky and his regime that are, I mean, they're making the money. That's they love a war because it allows children to disappear and no one asks any questions.
So you have Ukrainian whistleblowers,
but one of them was killed, and the other one was injured badly with a bomb. I've got I played the clip where Vasily goes to his car and the car explodes. It was from a car park camera. You can see it. That's what happened. So I mean, that's what happened to the whistleblowers. And the person in the group I'd got who took the information to the National Crime Agency 2-3 days after she'd given this exclusive information, evidence of child trafficking, and naming the companies, someone from the company, Economics, was checking out her social media history and her LinkedIn profile. So clearly the National Crime Agency had leaked the evidence to the company that we'd implicated, and then they were starting to investigate my team.
Did you start to feel unsafe also about the safety of your own children after this documentary?
Well, we're not safe, are we? But I mean, that if they want to do something very bad to you, they're going to do it. So there's no point being scared about that. And you know, I stood up and spoke about the vaccines when my government tried to force the experimental COVID vaccines down to babies of 6 months. I did not go into politics to allow children to be murdered or injured if I can do anything about it. But the unfortunate thing was, Fabio, that I spoke to all my colleagues in the House of Commons. Lots of them knew that the vaccines, even in 2022, were very harmful. A lot of them had been harmed themselves, but wouldn't go public, and they were quite happy for the children to be harmed. So, but I did stand up, and with those speeches, I stopped my government from authorising those vaccines for children under 5. And that was the end of my career. You know, so that's the end of your career if you do that. But, you know, it wasn't for nothing, was it? Yeah. You know, I had a chance, and I knew I could do it to protect those children. And what's the difference between that and seeing them trafficked for the sex trade to paedophiles? I mean, I didn't have a happy childhood myself. And one thing that really upsets me is if people are harming children. I don't like it. I really react very badly to it. Because, and is it satanic? I believe it is. And I think the people who are running this and many other things they're perpetrating against the people of the world, I think they're Luciferians. I think it's some sort of child sacrifice cult. I've looked them in the eyes. I mean, they are soulless people. And why do they do it? Well, you can look. I mean, you see a young child. They're the nearest thing to God we've got on this planet. You know, they're so innocent. They're in God's image. And the younger they are, the more innocent they are. And it's the biggest affront to God that these people can do. And that's why they do it. That's what I honestly believe is the biggest of harming children is the biggest affront to God. And that's why they do it. They're godless people.